Hello, GH fans, grab your snacks, lock your doors, and maybe double-check your attic situation, because Port Charles is officially in full-blown holiday chaos. And not the cute, twinkly kind. I'm talking secret fugitives upstairs, courtroom bombs downstairs, and a whole bunch of people lying so hard they're basically doing cardio. Because let's start with the big, messy headline: Willow's trial is underway, and the opening statements alone already feel like a trapdoor waiting to snap. The prosecution is painting Willow as a mother who finally broke after losing her kids, while the defense is flipping the script and pointing a neon arrow at Michael as the one who played dirty and lit the match. And if you think this is going to be a clean, logical trial with facts and fairness, oh, honey, this is Port Charles. Somebody's about to yank the steering wheel. Meanwhile, Britt is back in town with a face that says "I survived death" and an energy that screams "I brought baggage." She's got Lucas glaring, Lulu raging, Rocco caught in the middle, and Brad bouncing between fury and bestie hugs like he's on a soap opera trampoline. Britt didn't just walk back into Port Charles, she dropped a grenade into every relationship she touched, and the shrapnel is already flying. And just when you think it can't get more twisted, Carly is hiding Valentin like he's a Christmas decoration nobody asked for, while Brennan is strolling into her house all confident and loved up with absolutely no idea he's being played. Jason is out here making secret requests like he's running a covert operation out of a backpack. Josslyn is being pushed to unmask a fake lawyer who might literally be her own mother, and Anna is trapped, panicking, and getting psychologically toyed with by people who learned gaslighting from the FanZone family handbook. So yeah, GH fans, tell me this doesn't feel like the calm before the kind of storm that ruins everyone's Christmas. Because the question isn't who's lying. The question is, whose lie is about to explode first, and who's going down with it? Let's rewind to the hospital, where Britt and Lucas are having one of those professional conversations that are clearly not professional at all. Lucas wrote a recommendation letter about Britt, and she basically read it like it was a robotic obituary. That's the thing about Lucas, he can act calm, but when he's mad, he gets surgical with his words. And Britt, who has never been great at pretending she doesn't care, immediately clocked that the letter made her sound cold and clinical instead of the brilliant, complicated, occasionally reckless doctor she actually is. If you're Britt, that stings, because she's trying to rebuild a life after being dead, and Lucas is basically stamping her file with emotionally unavailable. Merry Christmas, right? Then we slide over to Portia, who should be focusing on healing but instead gets a surprise visit from Brad Cooper, walking in like a peacock with a problem. And the problem is, he's broke. That's the real comedy here, GH fans. The man got a huge payoff and somehow managed to burn through it like it was Monopoly money. So Portia takes one look at him and realizes exactly what happened. Brad didn't just overspend. He panicked spent. Stress spent. I'm back in Port Charles and need to feel alive spent. And now he's sniffing around Portia because he thinks he can squeeze her again. Portia tries to push back, claiming he doesn't have evidence anymore. But Brad's not acting like a man who needs evidence. He's acting like a man who needs leverage. And in Port Charles, a good story can be just as dangerous as a hard drive full of receipts. Brad clearly believes he can stroll into Terry Randolph's orbit and the hospital board's orbit and light a match under Portia's career. He's basically saying, "You can't stop me, and you know you can't." That's not blackmail. That's intimidation with a smug haircut. Thankfully, Isaiah Gannon shows up and throws Brad out like yesterday's trash. And can we just appreciate Isaiah for a second? He's got that rare Port Charles trait called no fear. Most people hear hospital scandal and start sweating. Isaiah hears it and starts setting boundaries. Brad hints he'll be back, because of course he does. Villains and chaos gremlins always promise sequels, but Isaiah makes it clear he's not going to let Portia get bullied in her own room. And then we get the twist. Isaiah circles back and makes a pitch that is honestly kind of compelling. He suggests Portia come stay at his cabin, the one they'd talked about before. Suddenly, Portia's hospital bed is empty, Elizabeth is walking in confused, and we're left with that soap opera feeling of, wait, did Portia just disappear from the board? Because she did. And that should tell you right there, Portia is scared. Not just annoyed. Not just stressed. Scared enough to vanish quietly and leave no room for another Brad ambush. Now, while the adults are scheming and relocating like it's witness protection, the teen and young adult corner of the canvas is doing its own thing. Curtis updates Trina and Kai on Portia's change of heart, and Trina is stuck balancing all the weirdness. She's got her mom's health drama, her own emotional pressure cooker, and then there's Kai, who's at the courthouse supporting Drew. And Trina, bless her, is trying to act chill about being there too, even joking that she might look like a clingy girlfriend. But that's the thing, Trina isn't clingy. She's loyal. And when Trina is standing by you in public, it means she's silently reading the room and clocking every threat. Because the courthouse is a battlefield right now, GH fans. Willow's trial isn't just a trial. It's a war over narrative. Over sympathy. Over who the town decides is the villain. Carly overhears Nina on a shady phone call and immediately assumes Nina is plotting to help Willow run. And look, Carly's not always right, but she's rarely wrong about Nina being up to something. Nina denies it, of course, and the two of them bicker like it's their love language. But Nina drops a little hint that the prosecution's evidence may not be as solid as everyone thinks. Which is interesting, because Nina doesn't usually hint unless she's holding something. Nina's the type to either explode emotionally or quietly manipulate from the shadows. And this moment? This is Shadow Nina. Alexis is doing what Alexis does, trying to steady Willow and guide her through the legal minefield while looking like she's personally carrying the stress of Port Charles on her shoulders. And Willow, even when she's innocent, has that fragile look like she could shatter if someone says the wrong sentence too loudly. Drew tries to pep talk her, telling her the jury will see her as innocent the way he does. And you can feel the tension in that, because Drew believes in Willow like it's a mission. That can be supportive, sure, but it can also be dangerous, because when Drew decides someone needs saving, he goes full hero mode, and hero mode tends to create collateral damage. Back at the Quartermain mansion, Tracy Quartermain is in rare form, blunt, fearless, and willing to lie for Michael. Tracy outright says she'll protect him on the stand, and Michael swears he didn't shoot Drew. But even Tracy, who has defended people through decades of Quartermain nonsense, admits it's hard to read whether he's telling the truth. And that's huge. Tracy doesn't doubt people easily. If she can't tell, that means Michael is either lying convincingly or telling the truth while looking guilty because his whole life is currently a mess. Either way, Tracy is stepping into perjury territory like it's a luxury spa. And then, we get the trial opening statements, and wow. ADA Justine Turner goes for the emotional jugular. She frames Willow as a woman who snapped after losing her kids, implying grief turned into rage turned into a bullet with Drew's name on it. That's a classic prosecution move, make the jury feel the emotions, then attach those emotions to the alleged crime. Alexis fires back with her own opening statement, painting Michael as the manipulator who used the kids as weapons after the affair. Alexis basically tells the courtroom, look at who benefits from this narrative. And she points the spotlight right at Michael. Here's where it gets extra messy. Alexis insists Willow wouldn't have shot Drew because Willow was married to him. Which sounds like a strong argument until you remember this is a soap, and marriages on soaps don't exactly prevent people from doing wild things. But Alexis is building a story where Willow is the victim, Michael is the aggressor, and Drew is the complicated middle who might be the reason this whole thing spiraled. It's a dangerous triangle, and the jury is going to be asked to choose which kind of terrible they believe. Then Dante gets a message on his phone and steps out of the courtroom. And GH fans, you know what that means. Nobody casually steps out of a trial in Port Charles unless something is about to pop off. That's either news about evidence, news about someone missing, or news about something going sideways in the investigation. And because it's Dante, it could also connect to the Falconeri family drama that's quietly boiling on the side. Either way, it's a signal flare, the trial is not going to follow the rules. Now let's jump back to the Britt storm, because that's where the emotional fireworks are getting personal. Britt texts Rocco to thank him for telling her about his community service sentence, and she hopes to see him again soon. Sounds innocent, right? Like a caring adult reaching out. Except it's Britt, and it's Rocco, and it's Lulu, and nothing is ever simple. Rocco accidentally leaves a tablet behind, Lulu sees Britt's message, and suddenly Lulu is on the warpath. She finds Britt at the hospital and absolutely unloads, accusing Britt of secret contact with Rocco and making it clear she's not playing games. Lulu vows to block Britt's number and basically implies this is just the beginning of her crackdown. Lulu is in full mama bear mode, and she's not wrong to be protective. Rocco's a kid with a complicated life, and Britt has a history that includes chaos, danger, and emotional whiplash. But here's the thing that makes this so layered: Britt actually cares about Rocco. She's not just poking Lulu for fun. She's trying to connect, to anchor herself in something human after everything she's been through. And Lulu sees that as a threat, because Lulu hears connection and thinks manipulation or harm or history repeating. Lulu doesn't want Rocco pulled into adult drama, and she especially doesn't want him pulled into Britt drama. So she draws the line hard. Britt tries to text again later, and the messages aren't delivered. Which is both heartbreaking and infuriating, because Britt is now blocked and shut out. And Britt, being Britt, isn't the type to accept being shut out. She's going to stew, she's going to plot, and she might do something impulsive just to prove she can. That's where trouble lives. Then, because the universe loves timing, Britt runs into Brad. And Brad gives her that classic "so you faked your death for 2 years" gripe, because yeah, that's kind of a big deal to spring on your best friend. Brad has every right to be hurt. He mourned her. He lived with that loss. And Britt just pops back up. But Brad is also Brad. He's dramatic, he's emotional, and he loves a reunion scene. So after a little sniping, he invites her to watch the Oscars red carpet with ice cream, agrees all is forgiven, and Britt basically melts into his arms for a hug. That hug matters, fans, because Britt needs an ally. She needs someone who sees her as Britt and not as a threat. Lulu sees a danger. Lucas sees a liability. The hospital sees a resume. Brad sees his person. And that's why Brad and Britt together are going to be both hilarious and dangerous, because they enable each other's messiness. Best friends in Port Charles don't just gossip. They accidentally trigger disasters. Now, pivot to Thursday's chaos, because it's escalating fast. Lulu is still standing her ground and saying, essentially, if you want me to cooperate with your shady plan, you're going to have to arrest me. That line screams one thing: Brennan is trying to use Charlotte as bait for Valentin. And Lulu is refusing. Lulu is not going to sacrifice a kid to catch a man who's already ruined enough lives. And if Nathan West is there backing her up, that adds a whole extra layer, because Nathan being present in Lulu's corner is like the show flashing a neon sign that says, "This is serious. This is family level serious." Brennan then visits Carly at her house. And Carly has to act normal while hiding a literal fugitive in her attic. She's playing the role of doting partner, even hinting about an early Christmas gift, while her stomach is probably doing backflips. Brennan trusts her, which is exactly why this is going to explode. Because the closer he feels to her, the more betrayed he'll be when he learns she's been playing Team Valentin behind his back. And Brennan might open up about blaming himself for Valentin's escape. Carly will reassure him, because she's good at that. Carly can soothe you while she's actively sabotaging you. She's done it before. It's kind of her superpower. But every reassurance is another brick in the wall she's building around this lie, and walls always come down in Port Charles, usually at the worst possible moment. Jason then shows up to see Josslyn, and he needs her help secretly. Nobody can know he asked. That's the kind of request that means one thing: Jason is sniffing around something dangerous, and he can't involve the usual people without drawing attention. He couldn't get the 5 poppies information he needed out of Britt, so now he's turning to Joss, who has been getting pulled deeper into the WSB world. Jason going to Joss is huge, because it's like the old guard quietly acknowledging the new guard has become a player. And speaking of Joss, she's also on a mission to identify Barbara Saunders, the mysterious fake lawyer who visited Valentin at Steinmauer. Brennan suspects Barbara doesn't exist. And he's right, because Barbara is Carly. Carly literally disguised herself, used special tech to dodge facial recognition, and played fake attorney to access Valentin. The sheer audacity. The sheer Carly of it all. So Joss is being asked to uncover her mother's secret without realizing it. And if she does realize it, we are headed straight for a mother-daughter explosion. Because Joss is not just a daughter, she's also being trained to think like an agent. To follow leads. To uncover truth. But what happens when the truth is your own mom committing something that looks a whole lot like treason? Meanwhile, Anna is in captivity, panicking, being diverted by some clue that might be a setup. And the mention of FanZone-style gaslighting? That's chilling. Anna has survived more than most people in Port Charles. If she is rattled enough to fling something across the room, it means the captors are pressing psychological buttons, not just locking doors. And if Sidwell is ordering Pascal to make Anna stay more interesting, that's not interest. That's cruelty. And then we've got the looming danger around Kevin Collins. Sidwell threatened Kevin's life, Laura begged Kevin not to cross Sidwell again, and now the show is floating the idea that Kevin could be sent out with a deadly exit, especially since John Lindstrom's schedule is pulled toward another project. Kevin has been off canvas a lot, and the show could either keep making excuses or go for the throat and turn Sidwell into a real monster by killing a beloved character. Add in the week of December 22nd, 26 spoilers, and it gets even more chaotic. We've got a double arrest aftermath coming, plus Willow's legal outcome, plus Christmas celebrations that are basically going to happen while everyone is lying, hiding, and trying not to get handcuffed. Chase is hauling 2 people to the PCPD, reading rights, and tossing them in lockup. Theories are flying that it could be Michael and Tracy, especially if someone exposes perjury or a cover-up. And let's be real, Tracy willingly lying on the stand is the kind of thing that comes back with sirens. Meanwhile, Nina is sniffing around Charlotte for Valentin info, and Brennan might tamper with evidence to help Willow. That's a huge deal, because it turns a courtroom drama into an espionage-adjacent scandal. If the WSB starts reshaping evidence, Port Charles is going to lose whatever illusion of justice it still had. So we're looking at a week where the law, the spies, the families, and the holiday spirit all collide. And the big question is, who's going to be free by Christmas and who's going to be staring at tinsel through jail bars? Let's get inside some heads, GH fans, because this is where the real soap drama lives, behind the smiles, behind the righteous speeches, behind the I'm doing this for your own good nonsense. Start with Britt. Britt is operating from a place of survival and isolation. She came back from being dead, and that kind of trauma doesn't just vanish because you're back in a lab coat. She wants connection, but she also wants control. The complaint about Lucas' letter? That's not just ego. That's Britt needing the world to see her humanity again. She's terrified of being reduced to a file, a reputation, a mistake. And that's why she's reaching for people like Rocco and Brad, because those connections make her feel real. But Britt also has secrets. That one catch line she might drop while having a meal with Brad? It screams that something is hanging over her, medication with a price, a deal she made, a threat tied to 5 poppies, Sidwell, or something that followed her back to Port Charles. Britt never comes back empty-handed. She comes back with consequences. Brad, on the other hand, is a walking cocktail of insecurity and ambition. He's broke, and he's embarrassed. He's also desperate to feel powerful again, because when Brad feels powerless, he does reckless things. The blackmail energy toward Portia isn't just about money. It's about control. He got a taste of having leverage and now he's addicted to it. But the soft side? The best friend side? That's real too. Brad forgiving Britt quickly isn't just because he's sweet, it's because he needs her. Britt is his anchor. His partner in crime. His safe place. And if he lost her once, he's not letting himself lose her again. Lucas is a different kind of complicated. Lucas is the guy who tries to do the right thing, but his emotions always leak through. That letter wasn't just a professional assessment, it was a message. A boundary. A punishment. Lucas has been hurt, and he expresses hurt through clinical distance. And then you add in Lucas playing up his relationship with Marco Rios, now that Marco's moved into Windermere? That's Lucas trying to prove something. He's trying to show he's moved on, that he has a life, that Britt doesn't matter, which is exactly how you know Britt still matters. Now Lulu. Lulu is not just angry, she's protective to the point of obsession right now. She sees Britt as a destabilizing force near her son, and Lulu has probably spent too many nights thinking about worst-case scenarios. When Lulu says she'll block Britt's number and that it's only the beginning, she's telling Britt, "You do not get access to my child." Lulu doesn't trust Britt's intentions, and honestly, she doesn't trust Britt's ability to keep danger away. Lulu's motive is simple: keep Rocco safe. But her method? It could backfire. Because the more Lulu tightens her grip, the more Britt might push back. And that could pull Rocco deeper into the exact drama Lulu is trying to prevent. Carly is Carly. She's running on impulse and righteousness, convinced she's protecting her family while doing something that could destroy her family. Hiding Valentin in her attic is insane, but Carly is the kind of person who will do insane things if she believes the bigger threat is worse. And Brennan roping Joss into the WSB? That's a line Carly doesn't want crossed. Carly might be hiding Valentin not because she loves him, but because she hates the idea of Brennan controlling her world. Carly's motive is revenge mixed with protection mixed with ego. She wants to win. She wants to keep her daughter safe. And she wants to punish the man who tried to claim power over her family. That's a triple threat cocktail. Brennan, meanwhile, is dangerously confident. He trusts Carly, and trust is his weakness. He's also desperate to fix his own failure, Valentin's escape, so he's pushing harder, taking bigger risks, and using people like Joss and potentially Charlotte like pieces on a board. Brennan might tell himself he's doing it for security, for justice, for the mission, but the truth is, he's also doing it to restore his pride. That's where villains and antiheroes are born. When pride becomes the motive, morality becomes flexible. Josslyn is in the middle of a transformation. She's not just a young woman reacting to family drama anymore. She's being trained to investigate, to trace identities, to solve puzzles. But she still has a heart. She still has loyalty. So if she discovers Barbara Saunders is Carly, she's going to split in two. Agent Brain says report it. Daughter Brain says protect her. And if she chooses to protect Carly, that's not just a lie, it's a decision that could permanently change who Joss becomes. A lie like that becomes a lifestyle. Jason's motive is always the same: prevent catastrophe with as little noise as possible. If he's asking Joss for help in secret, it means he's trying to control a situation that's already slipping. He couldn't get what he needed from Britt, which tells you Britt is either truly scared or truly hiding something. And Jason knows secrets get people killed. He's trying to get ahead of the threat before it hits the people he cares about. Now the courtroom characters: Willow, Michael, Nina, Alexis, Dante, they're all playing layered games. Willow wants freedom, but she also wants to be believed. She's fragile because she's exhausted. Michael wants to protect himself and his narrative. Nina wants to protect Willow, but Nina also wants leverage over Carly, over Michael, over anyone who ever made her feel powerless. Nina's pressure on Charlotte for Valentin info? That's Nina making a moral compromise and calling it necessary. Alexis wants to win, but Alexis also wants justice, and sometimes those goals don't align. And Dante? Dante is the moral compass who keeps getting dragged into storms. If he's testifying and getting urgent messages mid-trial, it means he's about to be forced into choices he doesn't want to make. And then there's Anna and Sidwell. Anna's motive is survival and escape, but she's also trying to hold on to her sanity. Captivity isn't just physical, it's psychological. And if the captors are using diversion clues and gaslighting tactics, they're trying to break her spirit, not just keep her locked up. Sidwell's motive is dominance. He wants Laura to follow orders, and he wants the town to fear him. Threatening Kevin's life is a way to prove he's not bluffing. And if Kevin does die? That's Sidwell planting his flag in Port Charles as the new monster nobody can ignore. So when you look at all of this together, GH fans, it's not random chaos. It's a web of motives, control, protection, pride, revenge, fear. And the more those motives collide, the more likely someone does something irreversible. Alright, GH fans, this is where we put on our conspiracy hats, sip our cocoa, and start connecting dots like we're building a murder board on the living room wall. Because the next week and beyond? It could get ugly fast. Let's start with Willow's trial, because the cracks are already showing. The biggest curveball could come from evidence, specifically, evidence that Brennan might tamper with. If Brennan and Nina have a deal, and Brennan is willing to manipulate what gets admitted in court, then Willow's illegal outcome might not be determined by innocence or guilt but by who controls the evidence pipeline. And if Alexis objects strenuously to the admission of something, that could be the show signaling a major reveal, either evidence that shouldn't exist, evidence that was altered, or evidence that's suddenly missing. And if evidence goes missing, that could spark the double arrests. Because think about who would get arrested if someone realizes the courtroom is being manipulated. Nina? Brennan? Someone closer to home like Michael or Tracy if their testimony is exposed as perjury. Chase hauling two people in suggests something public and undeniable happened. A witness lies. A recording surfaces. Someone is caught interfering. And Port Charles doesn't do subtle consequences when it's holiday week. It does sirens. Now, the eavesdropper at the Quartermain mansion? That's the ticking bomb nobody is talking about enough. If someone overheard Michael and Tracy discussing their plan to protect him, and if that someone is willing to use it, Michael's "I didn't shoot Drew" claim could collapse. It might not even matter if he's telling the truth. If the town believes he's hiding something, he becomes the villain in the narrative Alexis is building. And if someone like Martin Gray did overhear? Fans suspect that secret could be weaponized in the most inconvenient moment, like mid-testimony, just to maximize damage. Meanwhile, Britt and Lulu could spiral into a full-on war over Rocco. Lulu blocking Britt might be the first move, but Britt could respond by finding another way to reach Rocco, through Brad, through the hospital, through some accidental run-in. And if Britt sneaks a meeting with Rocco and Lulu finds out? Oh, it could explode. Lulu could go scorched earth. Britt could get desperate. And Rocco could end up emotionally caught between two women who both believe they're protecting him in different ways. Here's a scary thought: what if Rocco becomes the accidental key to something bigger? Like what if he hears something he shouldn't? Or stumbles into evidence tied to Valentin, or Sidwell, or the Five Poppies mess? Kids on soaps always end up accidentally holding the plot grenade. And with all the spy drama bleeding into family drama, it wouldn't take much for Rocco to become a target, emotionally or literally. Now, Carly and Valentin. This attic situation cannot stay hidden forever. It's basically a countdown clock with a Christmas bow on it. Brennan visiting Carly and opening up emotionally makes the eventual betrayal even sharper. And with Joss investigating Barbara Saunders, it feels like the show is lining up a direct path to Carly's exposure. So imagine this: Joss uncovers the truth, realizes her mom is Barbara, and suddenly has to decide whether to tell Brennan. If she lies to protect Carly, Brennan might still figure it out another way, through tech, through surveillance, through a slip-up. And if Brennan finds out Joss lied too? That's a double betrayal. That's Brennan turning from "I trust you" to "I will destroy you," and that's where things get dangerous. And what if Joss, once she realizes what Carly did, goes straight home and finds something that confirms Carly is still helping Valentin? Like a sound from the attic. A footprint. A tray of food. A whispered conversation. That could trigger an epic mother-daughter confrontation where Carly tries to justify it and Joss is torn between anger and guilt, because Joss might feel responsible for pulling her family into the WSB mess in the first place. Jason's secret request to Joss could tie into this too. If Jason is sniffing around 5 Poppy's info and Valentin's trail is connected, Jason might accidentally pull Joss closer to the attic secret without meaning to. Jason has always been the guy who tries to keep young people out of the worst of it, but this time, the young people are already in it. That could set up a terrifying chain reaction where Joss is involved in a spy-level operation while trying to keep her mother from being arrested. Now, Anna in captivity. The preview shows her panicking, flinging something, reacting to a clue that might be a diversion. Fans suspect that clue could be a deliberate mind game designed to make her doubt reality, classic psychological warfare. And if Sidwell is orchestrating interesting twists for Anna's captivity, we could see a staged escape attempt, a fake rescue, or a helpful captor who tries to manipulate her into revealing information. Anna is strong, but the longer she's isolated, the more vulnerable she becomes to emotional triggers, especially if they're invoking old trauma tied to FanZone and the past. And then there's Kevin Collins. If the show is truly considering a deadly exit, it could happen in a way that raises stakes for everyone: Laura, Sonny, even the town's sense of safety. Kevin meeting with Sonny to discuss the jam they're in suggests Kevin is stepping into dangerous territory. Laura begged him not to cross Sidwell again, which screams foreshadowing. On soaps, when someone begs you not to do a thing, you do the thing. And then something terrible happens. So Kevin could be targeted directly. Or he could be collateral damage, wrong place, wrong time, wrong conversation overheard. If Sidwell wants Laura obedient, hurting Kevin is the fastest way to break her. It's cruel, but it's effective. And if Kevin dies, Laura's grief could fuel a whole new war against Sidwell, one that drags Sonny into it, drags the PCPD into it, and maybe even drags the WSB into it if the writers decide to blend all these threads into one megaplot. Now, Christmas week. It's supposed to be warm moments, family bonding, Dante and Gio progress, Brooklyn approving, Rocco happy. And I do think we'll get some of that, because soaps love giving you one sweet scene right before they rip your heart out. But the sweetness could be built on lies. Dante and Gio bonding could be strained by secrets. Carly's Christmas could be poisoned by Valentin upstairs. Willow's Christmas could hinge on courtroom tricks. And the double arrest aftermath could mean somebody is spending the holidays in lockup. So the big speculation? Fans suspect we're heading toward a holiday blow-up where multiple secrets detonate at once. Carly's attic secret. Willow's trial twist. Brennan's manipulation. Nina's deal. And maybe, just maybe, a tragedy involving Kevin that shifts the entire power balance in Port Charles. So GH fans, tell me you're not feeling that heavy, uneasy something big is coming vibe right now. Because every corner of this canvas is wired like a Christmas tree plugged into a faulty socket, one spark and the whole thing goes up. Willow's trial is already less about truth and more about who controls the narrative, and if evidence starts vanishing or getting adjusted, then we're not just watching a courtroom drama. We're watching a system rot in real time. And if Tracy and Michael really do end up in those double arrests? That's the kind of fallout that doesn't stay contained. That spills into every family living room in Port Charles. And then there's Britt, trying to reclaim her life, desperate to connect, blocked and rejected, but not the type to back down. Lulu's protecting Rocco with everything she has, but what happens if her protective wall pushes Rocco toward the very chaos she fears? What happens if Britt decides she's done being told no and makes a move that changes everything? Meanwhile, Carly is playing a deadly game of pretend love with Brennan while hiding Valentin overhead like a secret that's breathing. Joss is being asked to unmask Barbara Saunders, and the horrifying part is she might succeed. So what happens when Joss realizes her own mother is the mystery suspect? Does she protect Carly? Does she protect the mission? And what happens when Jason, of all people, starts pulling Joss deeper into secrets nobody is supposed to know? And Anna is trapped, panicking, being psychologically pushed, and if Sidwell keeps escalating, we could be headed toward the kind of captivity twist that leaves scars even after a rescue. And Kevin Collins? If Sidwell really targets him, Port Charles could lose someone it never expected to lose this way. And Laura? Laura might be forced into a choice that changes who she is forever. So here's my cliffhanger question for you, GH fans: which secret blows first, Carly's attic, Willow's trial evidence, or the truth about who's really pulling strings behind the scenes? And do you think the double arrests are about courtroom perjury or something even bigger tying all these plots together? Drop your predictions in the comments. Who do you think ends up in lockup? Do you think Joss will uncover Carly's Barbara secret, and if she does, will she protect her mom or blow the whole thing wide open? And are we really headed toward a shocking goodbye for Kevin Collins? Because one way or another Port Charles is about to have a Christmas nobody forgets. And I have a feeling we're only at the beginning.